this sketchbook, and I hope you will gain some insight into the life of an artist and how it can change and how the creative process can change and how goals can change. This sketchbook originally was meant to be a daily sketchbook. So I was like, okay, nature-inspired sketchbook, daily sketches, and I was in Copenhagen, or in the Copenhagen area, for the entirety of April. It was supposed to be sort of self-funded artist retreat where I just get to, you know, creatively live out my dreams. So yeah, that's not what happened. I mean, I did fill the sketchbook yesterday because I wanted to film today's video about a full sketchbook, and I was just, for the last 2 days, my sketchbook is not full yet, I need to complete it. This video was essentially my motivation to take the time for myself to finish the sketchbook. So in the beginning, I still had all my hopes and dreams. The only thing standing in my way was feeling nervous about starting a new sketchbook. Like, you have this pristine white page and I wanted it to be pretty. I decided to go for something a little bit scribbly, a little bit in my comfort zone. So I was sketching a cool tree I saw on my bus journey. And I was photographing through the window. And yeah, I created a sort of dryad creature that could live in that tree. And I actually really like it. I did some iterations of it, and you can see in the bottom left corner, you already can see some composition sketches. So I really want to create a final of this one. But let's see if that will ever happen. The next one was based on a twig that I found on a walk, and it's very close to the sort of thing I wanted to do with this sketchbook, like finding elements in nature, objects in nature, and then being inspired by that and creating not a full piece but a fairly refined sketch based on that. For this one, I thought these twigs, they looked a bit like a hand, and I was thinking of, oh, like some gnarly witch fingers, and I kind of tried to get the silhouette of a hand into the drawing, and it didn't work out. But it looked fairly cool, I think. And then the next one, because I was living close to the beach, a lot of the stuff that I was finding were seashells and some little mussels. Their shape really reminded me of tears, and they came from the ocean. So my brain was mermaid tears, oh my god, they're mermaid tears. So my first sketch was placing the seashell on a portrait like it's a tear. And I have this beautiful iridescent watercolor that I never get to use for my illustration work because it's partly digital. And I love it so much. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. So I did another sketch with the seashell next because I love doing things with eyes. It's just so simple and so effective. Let's put a seashell where the eye is supposed to be. I am a brilliant genius. The next one was based on early spring blossoms. There was like a whole path that I was walking through, and it was just so beautiful. And I had some paint bleeding through from, I think, the witch fingers, and I pretended like it was stitched together. And this is a little bit of a zombie piece, and I love it. I also want to do a final with this. It's gonna be different. It would be a vertical format, but like really beautiful. I will never get to it. Then I found some driftwood at the beach. It was quite funny because I was looking at the shoreline and it's like, wait, that looks like a bird. Why is that bird not moving? And as I was drawing closer, it was, oh, it's just a piece of driftwood that kind of looks like a bird. And I found another piece of driftwood that kind of looked like a heart. So those are my driftwood pieces. This one I used pine needles for. Like I used them to create a texture. And then again, we have the eye. They're just affecting people so much emotionally. So it's a pretty intuitive decision to add some eyes to artwork. For the next one, I decided to go with something really simple, so I just painted a little watercolor study of a leaf I found, and I think it's quite a nice contrast to this more involved dark piece on the left. So much for that. And then the day came when my old art school called me and they asked whether I would take over a drawing class. I said yes, because why not? I'm on holiday, I have nothing better to do than teach a class that I have not prepared. But I think it went okay. that is when this art sketchbook, which was supposed to be beautiful and nature inspired, and up till now it was, and I did get in my daily sketches. And then I still got in daily sketches. I actually got in lots of sketches because I made my pupils, my students, I made them draw a lot. And I also did some demos and drew alongside of them because, you know, it was an online class and I just feel stupid, you know, just sitting there telling them, oh, you go draw now and I'll just sit here, wait for you to ask some questions. And this is where we'll mostly just see studies, because in the beginning I was trying to come up with ideas and concepts, and a lot of what is coming now is it's just studies. That's because I actually love them. I love painting nature studies and watercolor studies especially, but I sometimes feel like, oh, I have to do something more involved, or it has to be more. And that's not true. That's not true at all. But I feel like it's not enough to do something simple. But yeah, these are lots of them. They're just studies. This is a common horsetail. This is sea holly and sea pink. Sea holly especially, I saw them in Ireland and they look so strange because they have these white leaves essentially, and nearly white leaves, very pale leaves, and these blue blossoms. They're extremely beautiful. And these again, they're studies, and it's also the first time where I used my ballpoint pen and combined it with red ink, and I really love the effect. Trees, I did tree studies with my students, and yeah, so I think trees are fun. I have another study of some bittersweet nightshade, which are the most beautiful plants. So they have purple blossoms, right, which are unusual and beautiful, and then they have their berries, which are of course poisonous, and they start out green and then they turn yellow and then they turn red, and the green ones are most poisonous. They sometimes do have all three colors of the berries at one plant and the blossoms, and that's already so beautiful because it's all these colors, and it's a rather delicate plant, and it's gorgeous. And then in autumn you still have the red berries, the ripe berries, and then the leaves are turning purple and also sometimes a bit yellow. So there is so much color going on in these plants. They're stunning. I love them so much. There we have again animal studies, and they're just really quick drawings. And it's kind of funny because I tried to overpaint them with some larger portrait studies because I felt like, oh, these pages are not pretty enough. Oh, so much insecurity in one sketchbook. Yeah, this is a cool crow. I wanted to demo something, and then I just ended up rendering nearly the entire crow because I was just like, I love this crow, I'm gonna draw the hell out of it. There's some bird studies and wing studies, some snake portraits. Oh, this was a really quick watercolor sketch, and I want to turn this into a final piece at some point because I was walking in the outdoors in the evening, and I saw this one, and because the lighting was kind of low and the sky was kind of grayish blue and it reflected in the water, so the water was this light grayish blue, and then the swan was passing by, and it looked like it was missing a part of its neck because it was actually wearing a collar that was the exact same color as the sky / the water, and it looked so surreal. Oh, and this one I started in a cafe where I met up with another artist, and I ended up starting to doodle more because, you know, it's so interesting because my sketchbook is so much studies, and her sketchbook, we were both sketching, and hers was mostly just, you know, she was doodling, you know, just plants. She was drawing from memory, and she was like, oh, I should probably do more studies, and I was sitting there, I should probably doodle more from memory, like, so yeah. I try to do that more. So here's a little rose fairy, and I want to turn this into a final too. And I was doodling a little bit, trying to figure out how rose thorn teeth would actually look. Very important matters that need to be figured out. And watercolor Scotty, because they wanted to see some color. Demoed dragonfly wings, fish, lots of fish study. This is where I started to sketch a pine marten, and I was despairing because I just couldn't get the face just right. More pine martens, try to find a nice composition. I could paint this now because I figured out everything I need to know, but I'm like, I don't know. Again, more doodles. So this one was actually, so it's a bleeding heart plant, and I sketched it from a photo my mum sent me, and then I was doodling based on that on the train. And these are just some random doodles. And I remember there was a lady on the train, and she was like, oh, if you need something you draw, you can draw me. And I was like, no. No thanks, I'm good. I don't want to draw things from reality right now. Let me doodle. So this was where I was trying to get back to my normal plant inspired pieces. But again, you can see here those ferns, they're much more studies than illustrations. Oh, this is just a doodle. I think I was mostly drawing this just to draw something. I felt like making art, but it didn't feel like drawing, if that makes any sense. Like I wanted to make something, but I didn't really have the patience to really focus on elements and render elements. It's just, I'm making this now, and here's some paint, and here's some scribbly scratches, and that's why it looks the way it does. These are from when I visited the Drink and Draw Funk House, which is where I am going to hold my workshop. It's gonna be a live in-person workshop, and I'm really excited and nervous about it. This is where the watercolor nature studies really started in earnest, and I'm so glad they did because it was so much fun and they're so beautiful. So yeah, this is some lichen, some moss, some mushrooms, and some more lichen. It's a watercolor study. And I continued with some wild roses. I love wild roses. They're just so delicate and beautiful. And here are some more mushrooms. Here we have some more rose hips, and they're from beach roses, which is why they look a little bit different than from other wild roses. They're more bulbous, and I had a lovely photo that I could use as reference. I just think it makes a really nice composition. And this is my favorite page of all. I love this so much, like the flow of it and the different compositions and styles, because this is a little bit of a loose watercolor study, but it's still quite detailed. But I love it. I love the colors, and then I'm using the same colors as I did in there, and then I have more of this negative space, and there's the color bleeding out and the pigment bleeding out, and it's beautiful. And this one just has a very different form, and it's more like delicate fine lines, and just it looks a bit like a constellation, right? And it just, oh, I love the flow of it. I love this. And next up, yeah, because I did these yesterday, and by the point that I was here and it just had one spread left, one spread and one final page, I was just like, oh my god, I've had enough of watercolor studies, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Do I go back and try to find some cool concepts, you know, do I put in some other studies? And that was a moment where I thought like, wait, no, this is your sketchbook, this is you time, this is artist you time. What do you actually want to draw like right now? Like, what do you actually want to paint? What do you want to do? And I knew I wanted it to be more watercolor primarily. So I was like, okay, watercolor. And no, it's really simple. I like drawing faces. I like drawing plants. So it was gonna be faces and plants. So this one is another portrait where I combined my face, this time with extra hands, and some elderflower blossoms because they're blooming right now, they're blossoming right now, they smell heavenly, they're so beautiful, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna include them in a piece because who doesn't want all this tiny detail? Yeah, and that's the last one really. I was discussing with myself what would be the final piece. I really enjoyed in some videos having shots of the moon, you know, for beginning, ending or transitional footage, and so I kind of was like, yeah, let's go for moon painting for the last page. Anyways, that's it. That's the entire sketchbook. I'm so glad I did this. It didn't turn out the way I expected it to, but I like that it's a bit of a record of the last month and a half, and I got to create so many inspiring sketches that I can draw from if I ever find time to work on personal pieces again. And I got a lot of studies in, and I took the time for myself to work on these studies, and I'm really glad I did that. So yeah, that's my sketchbook. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. I hope you got something out of it. I really do. And we'll see each other next time, I suppose. Bye. Goodbye, people.